Hey guys, welcome back. For those of you who don't know, I am Lauren from A Buzz Designs, and today we're going to be talking about Baby Groot. Now, this model is so freaking cute. So cute. And the designer of it, I think you pronounce his name Biamba, maybe? I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name, but you are a genius when it comes to Baby Groot models. So this model has kind of been going all over the place, especially in the 3D printing Facebook group. And it is the cutest model ever, and it's a fairly easy to print model. It doesn't require any supports, which is amazing for a model of this much detail. So this is actually printed using Hatchbox wood PLA, which printed amazing, by the way. And if you guys follow me on Instagram, you will have seen different sections of this being printed and kind of the process from start to finish. But I thought I would do a video showing you guys how I finished it. So we're gonna go ahead and jump into that. But I wanna preface this video by saying you don't have to have wood PLA to get this kind of a look. All you have to do is take your plastic of any kind, paint it a natural wood look color, and then you're going to be doing a very similar process to what I did with the stain. Now with the stain, obviously it soaked into the wood. Instead, the paint is kind of going to sit on top. So you're going to want to layer it a little bit more and use a bunch of different colors of brown until you get the right color that you're looking for. So don't feel like because you're not using wood PLA that you can't still do the same process. You can. Try it. And if you try it, tweet me a picture or tag me on Instagram. I would love to see what you guys have come up with. I'll also insert a close-up of this guy finished so you can see him. The detail is amazing, and I will link to the website that has the file below. So if you want to print one out, you can. It is a free file for download. So let's get into it.
Okay, so to start off with, we're going to take some 220 grit sandpaper and we're just going to do a once over on both the head and the body. It doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to go through the trouble of making him perfectly smooth. He is, after all, a tree, so some layer lines will actually help give him more of a realistic look. Next, it's on to staining. Now this is some Minwax wood finish stain in the color Provincial, and I just went ahead and used a paper towel because it's what I had in front of me instead of a cloth. I recommend a cloth. I used a cloth later on, but I basically am just going to douse him in stain, making sure to get into all of the crevices, make sure that I've got him completely covered, and once I'm done with that, I'm gonna kind of take a look at him again and make sure that there's enough. I ended up doing a second coat on him, and then don't forget the top of his head. I'm gonna do the same thing with the body. The only difference between the head and the body is more of a dabbing motion rather than a wiping motion because of all of the texture and nooks and crannies in the body. After the stain had set for about 15 minutes, I went ahead and took an old t-shirt and cut it up so that I could use it as a rag, and I just wiped off all of the stain. That way it wasn't any extra. And again, same with the body here. It was more of a dabbing motion than a wiping motion because of all of the texture. Once he was dry, I realized that the body had soaked up a little bit more of the stain than the head did, so I went ahead and did one more coat of stain on the head so that it kind of matched a little bit better. Anything after this, I could go ahead and, kind of fake with some more paint. once the head was dry, it was time to paint on the glaze. So I mixed my own concoction of a deep dark espresso brown by using some shiny black and some brown acrylic paint, and then I thinned it out with some water. There's really no method to my madness here. I basically just painted until my brush was empty and then wiped off the excess. Now that seems a little redundant, but it does one of two things. It adds some detail into the nooks and crannies because what you're wiping off is not inside of those. And then it also deepens the color overall, which I needed because the body was still a tiny bit darker than the head. So I basically just went around and did this around the entire head. When it came time for the body, because it was already a little bit darker than the head originally was, I didn't want to flood the entire body with the glazing paint. So instead I just went into all of the nooks and crannies that I wanted and then wiped out the excess. That way it wasn't spreading color, deepening the entire thing, just the nooks and crannies that I wanted. It took a little bit longer to do it this way, but I think it turned out a lot better. Once I was done glazing the body, it was time to add black to the eyes. Now I chose a shiny black, which ends in kind of more of a glossy finish than your typical acrylic paint does. And I just went ahead with the same brush I'd been using and very carefully placed it in the eye socket, making sure that it was nice and opaque and nice and thick. Then I realized his eyebrows needed to be darkened a little bit, so I added a little bit to that and wiped it off the same way I had been doing prior. Now it was time to do the head. Again, same thing on the top of his head. You don't necessarily have to do this part of it, but I thought it would kind of add to some of the texture. As I said before, I mixed my own paint. I used 3 different colors of green for the green that is at the top of his head. And even that still seemed a little too green for me, so I added a little bit of brown and a little bit of black to it to kind of deepen and add a little more depth to the color to make it seem a little bit more like a mossy green that it looks like in the movie. Unfortunately, I didn't actually have a picture in front of me, so I'm glad the color turned out the way I wanted it to, because really I had no idea. So I did the same process. I just took the paint, watered it down a little bit, and then painted it on top. Now from here, it was kind of a trial and error to see where the depth of color was, and I just kept going until it seemed right. At one point though, it seemed like there was a gradient change that was not right, so I mixed in a little bit of dark brown to make like a deep olivey green, which I used at the bottom of the green, and then I added more of the lighter green at the top, which gave you a nice ombre effect going from the base of his head to the top. When doing the very top of his head with the green, I did little splotches of different colors, so there were pockets of dark green, pockets of light green, and pockets of brown, just so that it wasn't quite as uniform.
I hope that you guys guys liked that video. It was super easy to do, way easier than I thought it was going to be. So I hope that you guys give it a try. And huge thank you to all of my patrons over at Patreon. I could not do videos like this without your support. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be able to have gotten the Hatchbox filament in the first place. So big, huge thank you. I appreciate every single one of you. Every dollar counts, and it is greatly, greatly appreciated. If you haven't subscribed, I hope that this video has enticed you to do so. And if you did like it, don't forget to give it a big, huge thumbs up. That's all I have for you guys today. I hope you have a fabulous rest of your weekend, and I will see you guys again next time.